The Mafia, the Vatican, the Freemasons, and a conspiracy that may reach all the way up to God himself. This is the strange tale of Roberto Calvi. Friday, the 18th of June, 1984. A postal worker crossing Blackfriars Bridge on his way to work notices something strange. Hanging from the scaffolding below is a body. The police are called. The victim is identified as one Roberto Calvi, an Italian financier. The initial verdict was suicide. The truth would turn out to be far more complicated. To understand why, you have to know a little about Calvi. Calvi was nicknamed God's banker, and imagine having to refuse a loan to that guy. The reason for this sobriquet was that he was the chairman of Banco Ambrosiano and dealt extensively with the Vatican. In fact, the Vatican was a 10% shareholder in the bank. Calvi enjoyed a close working relationship with many high-ups in the church. In 1978, Banco Ambrosiano became embroiled in scandal. Several billion lira had been exported illegally. This would ultimately lead to the collapse of the bank, and Calvi being convicted in 1981 of being financially shady, or words to that effect. He was fined $19.8 million and given a 4-year suspended sentence. He would attempt suicide in jail. On the 10th of June, a little over a week before his death, he would leave Italy on a false passport, and in something of a hurry. That a suicidal man should successfully commit suicide hardly seems like a mystery, except that forensic investigation would ultimately determine that Calvi did not commit suicide. The bruising on his neck showed that he had been garroted, not hanged. His shoes would show no traces of paint or rust from the bridge. The bricks in his pockets that had weighed him down had not been touched by him. This was no suicide. So if it was a murder, who did it? Might it have been the Vatican? 13 days before his death, Calvi would write to the Pope warning him of the imminent collapse of Banco Ambrosiano, and that the Vatican was likely to lose a lot of money. The letter proved that the Vatican were up to their eyeballs in Banco Ambrosiano's shady dealings. Now, you're a little young to remember the Crusades, but in general the Vatican are not good people to have as your enemies. Or was it someone shadier still? In 1991, ex-mafioso Francesco Manoia claimed the murder had been carried out on the orders of the Mafia, who were allegedly using Banco Ambrosiano to launder money. The alleged killer, I'm going to use the word alleged a lot here, was Francesco Di Carlo. Di Carlo later turned informer and denied that he had done Calvi in, but claimed he had been approached to carry out the killing by one Giuseppe Carlo. Carlo was nicknamed the Mafia's cashier due to his job as the Mafia's cashier, so you can see why he might have been a little miffed with Calvi. Carlo would actually be charged with ordering the murder, but would be acquitted in 2007 due to insufficient evidence, as would businessman Flavio Carboni, his girlfriend Manuela Kleinzig, Calvi's driver Silvano Vittor, and alleged mobster Ernesto Diatalevi. Also implicated by Manoia, and later investigated for the murder, was Licio Gelli, and here things get creepier still. Gelli was involved in high finance, but, more sinisterly, was the master of Propaganda Due. Propaganda Due, or P2, was an Italian Masonic Lodge so shady that it was disowned by the regular Freemasons. Its membership included several prominent Italian politicians, including that one, many wealthy businessmen, military leaders, and journalists. It was often referred to as a shadow government, or a state within a state. Gelli was a fanatical anti-communist, in fact an unrepentant fascist who had been the liaison between Italy and Nazi Germany during the Second World War. Roberto Calvi was a member of P2, as revealed by a list found in the possession of Sergio Vaccari, a drug dealer who would be found stabbed in his Holland Park flat and who had likely found Calvi his London pad. Gelli would deny commissioning the murder when investigated in 2005, but would point the finger in the direction of Poland, where he alleged Calvi had financed the Solidarity movement. Was it P2? One interesting fact to note is that P2 were nicknamed the Frati Neri, or the Blackfriars. That Calvi should have been found hanging from that bridge, of all the bridges in London, seems a remarkable coincidence. His London flat was in Chelsea, several bridges upstream. To this day, despite investigations in London and Italy, no firm conclusions have been reached as to who killed Calvi. The suspects have all been acquitted, whether legitimately or otherwise, and all we know for sure is that the whole thing is a tangled mess of corruption and crime. It's likely that we'll never know the whole truth, but this is one of those rare cases where a sinister high-level conspiracy really is the most likely explanation. It's just a question of which conspiracy it is.